Hi everyone, I am Parth and this is my Sparks Foundation task prediction using decision tree algorithm. So decision trees are basically a kind of classification algorithm which classifies the data based on simple decision rules such as true or false. So in this task we are basically given this dataset called iris.csv which contains various various attributes of a flower like sepal and petal lengths. Using these four variables, we need to classify which kind of species that is. So first we import all the necessary libraries such as sklearn and pandas. Then we load the dataset into the iris variable, and then using pandas we change the data type of that data to a data frame so that it would be easy to work with. Then y we store the value of iris.target in y. And y would be a target variable which will be used to predict the species that is. So here is basically the data frame, and what the 0, 1 and 2 means is that 0 is a first species called Iris setosa, 1 is a second species called Iris versicolor, and 2 is a third species called Iris virginica. So after that we start defining the decision tree algorithm. So we import decision tree classifier from sklearn.tree. Then in the variable dtree we start initialize the decision tree classifier. Then using dtree.fit we pass two parameters. The first is the data frame and second is a target variable y, which we defined here. The then then we create a variable called iris underscore predict, which stores the value of dtree.predict, and we pass a parameter data frame or the df variable, which stores or predicts the values of our data frame. Then we use then we print the iris underscore predict variable, and here what we do is we use the mean absolute error command to check whether if there is any error in our predictions from the original data. So we use the variable y, and we use the variable iris underscore predict we used here, and this command will give us the mean absolute error if there is any. So here is basically our predictions, and the mean absolute error surprisingly turns out to be 0.0 point 0, which is like a perfect fit to a model, and the decision tree classifier is created. After that we start visualizing the decision tree to understand it better. We use the libraries py.plus and graphviz to visualize it. We import all the necessary libraries from sklearn, ipython, sklearn.tree and py.plus, and then using this piece of code we visualize the graph. So what basically happens in this graph is that first the decision tree sees whether or not the petal length is less than equal to 2.45. If it is true, which is true for around 50 variables, then it classifies that into the true branch. If it is false, it classifies it into the false branch. After that, after after the second level, it sees whether the petal length is less than equal to 1.75, and it classifies it into if it is true or if it is false. And basically that's how these branches are created, and that's how the decision tree is able to predict whether to which species the flower belongs to. Here the genie describes the probability of a variable being wrongly classified into true and false branches. So in the first box the genie is pretty high as the data is clustered into it's clustered all in one. But as we go down, we see the value of Gini gradually decreases, and we start getting accurate predictions, and that's why our mean absolute error comes out to be zero point 0.0, because the data we fit in is a perfect fit, and what we predicted is a perfect fit for this kind of data. Now, uh, according to this, according to the algorithm we created here, we can fit any type of data defining these variables, and it will be able to classify the data and predict its values accordingly. Thank you.